For this great opportunity to speak to you and actually to share my knowledge with you and my impressions. I would like to invite you to have a good day today. This is going to be a good day. You're going to share knowledge and you're going to enjoy the new contacts you're going to get around this theme of how to use flow, how to use new type of inspiration for becoming a better developer and a better manager and have better performance in your own professional life. I think I'm going to speak to you about a topic which is highly relevant. It's going to be around using a psychological concept, of how this psychological concept in the modern world can be used as a renewable and new source for organizational competitiveness. Anybody who wants to see my slides later on, please take a photo of this bit.ly link. I'm sharing everything I have. I come from a beautiful city, Budapest, not as big as this great city here, Istanbul, and this is actually also a hub of international research and innovations. Many modern things like matches or soda water have been invited in my country, and we always work at the borderline between East and West, as we feel here also in Istanbul. Actually, one of the inventions made in Hungary is the Rubik cube. It's a highly intellectual, complex mathematical formula behind it in a very, very simple and concrete representation and in a toy. So playfulness, abstraction, and reduction, and using certain skills are all around my environment where I come from. The work I'm doing is leadership development. You know, there are many different approaches and different schools of thoughts of what a good leader is, and I have been studying that and teaching that. That is the core of my work. But one element which always comes back is really the deep question, how to get other people's motivation, how you can get close to their heart, close to their soul, so that they're actually joining the organizational efforts and activities. And during my research, during the global overview of what there is on the market and what solutions there are, this formula which works best for me is actually to look at each individual and to discover as a leader and as a manager who's good at what. Because everybody has moments of particularly high enjoyment, high pleasure around being themselves when they really enjoy what they're doing. So, as a leadership developer, I've been starting working with this theory and observing, rather than using clever tools, techniques, but more the difficult way of understanding the soul and human nature of other people who we are going to lead. What I have discovered is that increasingly in rich societies, as we're here, people are longing and asking the question, will this activity which you promised me make me happy? So happiness is actually at the core of what I'm talking to you at this conference around the flow. Most people think that this definition, this picture, is clearly not happiness. This poor man has to work so hard. He's sweating there and probably is waiting for to be happy after work. Sometimes, of course, people think, and this happens far too often, even in this round, that people think that the annual bonus will make them happy. With the annual bonus, they go to some fancy distance place, they will do nothing, and then they will be happy. But deep down in your heart, you all agree that these types of happiness, these two extremes, are not the same. There is a difference between these two elements, and the previous one, actually, this person, already on this picture, inspires that he thinks his work is meaningful. But lying on a beach constantly and spending the money ultimately brings everybody to the limitations of a plateau that we are not enjoying the activity after a while. So there are two different types of approaches to happiness, and I would like you to focus all on what makes life meaningful, where you spend your energy and your time. And at this point, this Professor Csikszentmihalyi comes into the picture. He is actually a guru because very few people in their life can say that they have found a new branch of science, co-founded. He is seeing himself as an expert in creativity, so he wouldn't say that he's really a flow professor. He is proud of himself for his work in creativity, but also based on the work on creativity, a new branch of science around happiness has opened up. But more important for me, he is my personal friend and colleague, so he's a touchable human person whom I meet regularly and we work together. The question very often arises when Mihai and I meet on conferences, Professor, how did you discover the flow? Well, Mihai's background, you have to understand how flow came about. He came from a very intellectual family. His father was ambassador of Hungary to Italy in Trieste, in Fiume, which is now Croatia. And after the Second World War, when the Red Army arrived to Budapest, these elite intellectuals, they were refugees. His family went to Italy. And in Italy, all those people around him were gray and black, lamenting, waiting for the moment to change, that they can return back into their nice offices, the opera, the theater, the wealth. And they were waiting passively and in depression. But Mihai's family started a little restaurant. In the morning they got up, went to the market, were cutting the onions, preparing the Hungarian goulash, waiting for customers, put together a new menu. And this was the moment when he remembers that he was curious, why is it that some people are in the black zone? In the office, you have this very often, people wait for things to change, but a few people are creative and they start to do simple activities like preparing a dish. So what I'm saying is that Csikszentmihalyi discovered something which everybody else can observe in his or her life, but he asked the right question. What's the difference between colorful solutions to life and gray solutions to life? During his research, he looked at very famous people, artists, sportsmen, and yes, these people were successful and finding their work meaningful and they were very creative. But what is important for all of us is that he also did research with average people, like you, your colleagues, including myself. And I don't have to be an artist, a top sportsman, a great musician to enjoy the flow, to be creative, but it can happen in small activities like giving a speech, giving a good lecture, preparing a nice slideshow. And for all of you, putting the Excel together, do a great negotiations. Mihai describes also the story of the fish cutter, where he is in New York, he goes down to the metro station, and there is some person who has a big salmon, and he asks him, are you happy with this work? There's no natural light. Do you enjoy the work? And he says, yes, in my fingers, I think I can feel the bones of the fish. A very, very happy person. So flow is something which can happen for very easy activities. It doesn't have to be very fancy and big things. Scientifically, these moments of happiness, when you feel that you are in a meaningful life, is called optimal experience during the day. The best moments which can happen to you during an activity, during a personal day. So who has seen the flow? How does it look like? How do you recognize that somebody is in flow? Well, the features of flow is that it is always an activity. On this picture you can see Mihai to the left side with his cousin in Budapest, and it is very trendy to be in flow everywhere in the world. We have also flow cafes. So this was taken in the flow cafe, and you can see the background of the flow cafe, the translation, the transcription of his definition on the wall. So flow is a mental state. It's an opportunity to experience the world, a window to reality. And in this mental state, people are completely involved. But what is important and beautiful for me, that it's always an activity. A mental activity is something active, not passive. And you do it just because it happens to be there. So you put meaning into this activity, and in this moment, the ego falls away. You don't care about what other things are doing. Time is flying away. I'm going to watch the time here, and it takes me out of flow. So during flow, people can speak long, and they're very enthusiastic. And it comes easily. One moment comes after the other. Like in jazz music, there's no score, there's no script. People create reality. And people in flow are showing high level of energy and they enjoy the activity. So, Mihai also went to a boat trip with his wife, Isabella, in the Caribbean. And on the table they were speaking with a professor colleague, but he was a medical doctor and he was waiting to arrive at the next city. And he asked him, why are you so curious? You don't enjoy the environment? He said, no, I feel extremely bored here. Why don't you go fishing? And he said, no, I wait until we arrive at a new city where we're going to be for a day. I want to go to the local hospital. I want to join them in an operation. I'm a surgeon and I want to work. I miss this feeling of doing an operation. Now we would say this person was so used to the doses of flow, of tension, of seeing what they have to do, that he actually wanted to re-experience the advantages of flow. He wanted to concentrate on the activity. He just wanted to be with that particular patient or case. He wanted to feel that he has a sense of control, that what he's doing is his hand and his work. Also, he wanted to forget about being on the boat and just enjoy those hours in the operation. So this is the beauty of flow. And of course, he didn't think of himself as a big professor at that time when he does the operation, but he was losing the flow. So now you have seen the basics of flow, why it is so attractive. The second part, I would like to speak to you about why flow is actually relevant for business communities. Why you are here and not only sports people, pedagogists, or artists? But why is this relevant for business? Look at these dogs. They go home from work and they complain. Always the owner, the manager says, be quiet, where is the budget, where is the memo, when are you ready with the project? Never be yourself, be creative, be loud. But the good role of a good leader, flow promoting leadership, the essence is to understand as an owner that one dog is a hunting dog and wants to run around. The other type of dog is a shepherd dog, wants to protect people, create community. So I tell to you, through you, to others, that create please more flow for the employees so that they can bring in the talents they have. Because if they're just following the principles and the processes, you get a limitation of the achievements and you're not using the whole creativity of the dogs. So how can you achieve this? I asked Mihai to speak himself a little bit about this concept of flow.
When I started, I had no expectation to find this state of flow in a business setting. I expected it to find among sportsmen, among artists, musicians, athletes, etc. But then I became aware that there are many non-play or non-artistic places where people report or are safe to report this thing. For instance, surgeons, computer programmers, people who are working in new areas of technology and science, and they also say the same things. Their work is like sport or like art.
So, there are many positive economic effects and advantages of using flow, as you have seen Mihai speaking about. It is not something which is only in a few moments, but if you have much flow at companies, then the performance will increase. People are going to choose higher level of results driven by internal development. People who enjoy flow at the work, they stay in the company. You don't have to hire more people, and you don't have to ask the discussion how much the money is that you must pay them for doing the work, because they are actually staying from inside. Flow is useful to develop the skills in development, because the definition of flow means that you get better and better at the activity. You move your skills level higher and higher, And ultimately, it is also finding new solutions to existing situations, programs, and problems by using these skills. So in terms of HR, this is a very good package and advantage. So this was the second overall theme I wanted to show you, that flow as such is highly relevant for the organization and the company. The third topic I would like to briefly hint at is how you can improve flow for others. So this is the leadership development aspect of flow. Many companies in rich societies, Australia, Japan, they have chief happiness officers. I'm not too good friend of them. They spend money of company for fruits, make nice walls, they recolor the wall, they make slogans on the corridors. Sometimes the happiness officers think that organizing bowling parties or picnics are the real happiness of companies. No, no, this is merely a moment of pleasure. Csikszentmihalyi clearly makes the distinction of happiness called enjoyment, in which you work hard and you enjoy the work itself by getting better at it, not by being just in pleasure. Bowling is good, and picnics and all these activities for those who organize it, but it is not going to create the creativity or the engagement of people at their work. Instead of this, positive thinking, we suggest to use positive psychology. First one is just thinking nice about the future and everything is rosy. The other one is the technology of science. And Csikszentmihalyi has decided to write this down, to write down the process of how people can get into flow. First step of getting into flow, you must be aware, is that there must be a clear goal which is understood by the employees or the team members. The goal should not be too distant, and it needs to be translated into the language of the level of understanding of the team members. So strategic thinking is very useful as a leadership skill, but it needs to be communicated to the person. The next activity of science which creates flow is to have a source of feedback. A musician can see what he plays. A sportswoman can see how fast she runs. An artist can see immediately the effect, but an annual bonus, a quarterly bonus, is not feedback to the work you have. It maybe shows the effect of your work, but it's not you're using your abilities at the best. It is something which costs money for the organization. It's an easy way out for poor leaders not to exercise the human skills of giving good feedback, but without feedback on the work, no flow can come about. The third element is a bit more complicated, and we call it the balance at work between an individual's skills and the person's challenge they have to handle. I would like to show you that achieving flow is not mechanic. It's a dynamic process. That's why training people in flow and flow leadership is not just a cognitive knowledge level, but it's actually an activity in which technology and games and training can help. What is this balance about? The balance to find flow is to use the right combination of skills and challenges. You can see the skills level at the lower end in the black zone is very low for a person who's in apathy, and the person doesn't have any activities to do. Actually, apathy people feel so depressed that they can't change their reality. Instead of this, they start to alcoholism or they accept a bad reality as being the reality. Alternatively, we can move into the zone mentally of anxiety when we have a high challenge to do and we're not happy with that because it's too much and we don't know the skills how to do that. And the other extreme Mihai speaks about is boredom, when I have a skill but nothing to do and I'm waiting for this to happen. So finding the zone, to be in the flow zone, is actually an art which needs to be exercised and developed slowly. The fourth element, which is needed to get into the flow, is to have no distractions. People ask sometimes, Zoltan, how long are you in flow? Well, as long as no phone call comes in, as long as I can do my work. So no interruptions, no multitasking, no meetings are ideally the direction for creating more flow at work for others. Flow is nothing exclusive. It's not just for rich companies. For the big Apple and the big inventor companies. Any company can have flow. It can be used everywhere. I have asked Mihai to give a few words about this, about the leadership aspects of flow in companies.
And then slowly it became clear that it didn't have to be a special place like Apple or whatever place where people are doing new things, but even a corner restaurant or drugstore or any place you can experience flow very well. And so luckily, this was discovered and it has been used in all kinds of companies. For instance, in the United States, just came across this very interesting book. One of the authors, Eric Schmidt, has wrote to me that there's a whole chapter where flow is described about how they are trying to achieve flow at Google, and there are several other large American firms where this is done.
Okay, so there are 4 key principles to create flow in others. As a leader, you also need to build up your own psychological capital. The energy in you that you are actually at the forefront of an organization, to lead the organization. Therefore, I also suggest for you to think of yourself as a leader in everyday life, but also in organizations, how you can develop more flow for yourself. Because it's a great asset to have in addition to your financial capital, to your knowledge, which is intellectual capital, to your social capital. There's something inside you which we call psychological capital. And the way you can build this up is to be in flow. If you think of yourself as a hero, what makes a hero a hero? In the Marvel universe, the heroes have all different skills. Please think about which leadership skills you master. What are your specific, unique contributions to an organization? Because if you use those and you develop those, then you can get into flow. So one dimension to be aware as a leader in order to replenish yourself with energy and to get more into flow is to think about the skills you already have and how to get better at it. A good leader also takes the other route, the challenge, the complexity, the mastery route. You are looking for new difficulties, how to make the system even more beautiful, even more complicated by taking even more challenges on board. So it is a spiral, it is swimming like a fish in the river to find balance in the zone of power and energized to be in the flow. Mihai has described this, what I speak to you about, in several different books. Most of you probably think of Csikszentmihalyi's Flow book, but I really recommend to you to buy and to read also the 3rd book, Good Business. This is relevant for our business and social community. It speaks about the applications of flow in concrete companies, in concrete challenges, and I know it has been translated to Turkish, and it has been customized to Turkish society, to the Turkish environment, by local experts. So now you have seen that there are principles of applying flow to yourself as well. The last outlook, as my time is coming slowly to an end, is a picture I took next to Mihai, and he's speaking about something you can see there in the background. I don't want to highlight it too much, it's the next presentation I will give. But he's speaking about digital, technological solutions, how to create flow in organizations, how to have learning, how it is possible for you here in the new digital era to use his knowledge to develop not only the flow of unique sportsmen, talented painters, or a few people in arts and music, but to wider groups of people to speak about this internal energy inside. I hope that my brief expose about Csikszentmihalyi's background, how he discovered flow, why this is important, the guru, as he is very often seen, was useful for you to play around a little bit with your own Rubik Cube, your own life, your own brain, that you have to play with your abilities and to see the effects of your activities in everyday life as you go forward and into this zone. I have called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi a few days ago. It was his 85th birthday, and he couldn't come here, but he well remembered that Turkey, he has many good friends, experts, and he sent me this picture and he told me, Zoltan, please show this. There are many people out there who know me in Turkey, and he's sending to all of you his personal remarks and greetings. I personally also hope that this was interesting to you. You can ask me questions if you wish. May the flow be with you. I wish you should swim in the water with high energy, just like a good fish.